to She Leads Boldly, the podcast for faith-driven women navigating the high-stakes world of corporate leadership without compromising what matters most. I am Sharika Sanders, your host, mentor, and former corporate powerhouse, here to embrace bold leadership rooted in purpose, not pressure. This space is for the woman who refuses to choose between faith and ambition, family and fulfillment, impact and rest. Each week, you'll hear powerful conversations, practical strategies, and spirit-led wisdom to help you advocate for yourself, lead with integrity, and rise without burnout. If you're ready to lead boldly, live faithfully, and never settle for less than what God has promised, you're in the right place. Welcome to She Leads Boldly, where we define what it means to lead with faith, without compromise, and without burnout. I am your host, Sharika Sanders, and I am so glad you are here. Truly, thank you for showing up with me for you. I'm a former corporate powerhouse with over 15 years in accounting and leadership roles. But more than that, I'm the mentor I once needed. I'm here to support women of faith like you who are navigating demanding careers and high expectations while holding tightly to your values. I'll even tell you, honestly, it was right before I left corporate when I was talking to someone about starting this journey, a journey I never thought that I would start, and we'll get to that in a later episode. But when I was starting this journey and I was telling them that, you know what, I'm just taking a leap of faith. And the person I was speaking with responded to me and said, I didn't know you were a woman of faith. I didn't know you were a Christian. Oh my gosh. If I can't even imagine this. I can't even explain, the sting that felt to hear somebody say that to me. Especially knowing that I was going to start a journey that was completely based on faith, completely based on an answer, a word I received from the Lord during prayer and fasting. And I always thought people knew I went to church, but I never wanted to be categorized as one of those, oh, here she comes talking about the Lord again. You know, that person. And now it's like, well, what's wrong with that person? Because I guarantee you that woman is smothered and covered in God's blessings. And so now just to look back, to think about that moment, it still honestly makes me feel really sad to know that I lived my life, specifically in the corporate space, too fearful, too afraid of judgment to be who he called me to be, to speak up for him like I should have. And so this podcast was born out of my own journey, a journey full of moments where I felt overlooked, undervalued, and unseen. I was constantly told I wasn't enough, that I didn't come from the right, quote unquote, background, or that I needed to work twice as hard for half the credit. But God allowed that season of frustration to become a platform. He turned my misery into my message, my test into my testimony. And now I'm walking in my Esther season because I truly believe that God allowed me to survive the things that I went through in the corporate space for such a time as this. And this is Esther 4:14. That verse just came from Esther 4:14 because I want to make sure that as we speak each week, each Wednesday, you'll find a new episode, and each week, each episode will be laced with biblical scriptural reference, biblical wisdom, because I want you to understand that this isn't just Sharika who has now decided to step on this platform and think she knows all the things. No, this is Sharika who is becoming and consistently, daily choosing to walk into who God called her to be. And I can't do that without his word. And so I'm bringing his word right back to you to remind you of his promises, to remind you of who he is and who you are in him. And so She Leads Boldly is for the faith-driven woman in corporate or leadership spaces who are feeling the pressure to prove herself daily, struggling to set or maintain boundaries, is navigating burnout, fatigue, or feeling unseen. The woman who wants to lead with boldness without compromising faith, family, or her well being. Because if you're anything like me, you probably thought you had to choose, right? Either success or family, either your faith or your respect. But no, sis, it doesn't have to be that way. We can walk boldly into who God called us to be. And so each week, I will share practical strategies to advocate, to show you how to advocate for yourself at work and at home, biblical wisdom to guide your leadership journey, spirit-led encouragement to remind you that you are not alone and you are already more than enough. We'll talk about real life topics like workplace politics, imposter syndrome, managing expectations, building God-honoring success, and so much more. This is your reminder. You can be all God called you to be without losing yourself in the process. You don't have to shrink to fit in. You don't have to burn out to succeed. And you don't have to compromise to rise. My God, I'm speaking to myself. If this speaks to your heart, I invite you to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with me each week so we can walk through this journey together. Share it with a sister or a friend who needs this message, because you never know how one word can change everything. Remember, you were created for more, and this is a space where we will rise together. So I'll see you next Wednesday. Remember, you can lead boldly without burnout, without compromise, and without leaving your faith at the door. And until next time, stay anchored in purpose, covered in grace, and always ready to rise. See you next week.